Okay, so we're going to start talking about the macromolecules in general. We're going to discuss a few pieces of terminology that we need to have a grasp of before we actually get into talking about the macromolecule groups themselves. So the first thing I want to talk about is the terms polymer versus monomer. And I guess we should kind of stick to breaking down and dissecting the word. Mono means one. So a monomer is the smaller component of a macromolecule versus poly, meaning many. This is the larger component. And each macromolecule, I'm going to call them MMs for now, will have its unique monomer, and therefore unique polymers. I don't think I need to write that down for you guys. That's basically the terminology there. We're going to move into talking about how to make them and how to break them. And so we're going to talk about two different types of reactions now. We're going to talk about a condensation reaction RXN reaction, and we're going to talk about a hydrolysis reaction. So let's talk about the condensation reaction first. We do condensation reactions if we want to go from smaller to larger. In a condensation reaction, just like the word condensation should mean to you, it sounds like, you know, when you have that glass in the summertime and it starts to, as Grandma would say, sweat, and she yells at you and tells you go get a coaster because you're sweating all over her, your drink is sweating all over her nice wood furniture. So condensation is that water you see on the outside of the glass. It was water vapor in the air, and then as it hit your cold glass, it condensed back down into a liquid. So essentially, it looks like water is coming off your glass, but in this case, when we do a condensation reaction, water is actually coming off of the molecule. In a hydrolysis reaction, there we go. In a hydrolysis reaction, we have the opposite happening. We're going from larger to smaller. This time, and here we're going to use water to cut. To lyse means to cut, and hydro means water, so that's what we're going to do there. So those are the two types of reactions we're going to talk about. Let's see if I can draw the molecules for you. Let's see what happens. We all know how skilled I am with this thing at the moment. So we're going to start with just a simple carbohydrate. In the carbohydrate, we have an ether bond. So our carbohydrate looks like that. And we have an OH group hanging off over here. I'm not going to draw the rest of the carbohydrate, but let's say I want to take two simple sugars, these two little carbohydrates, here. And we have an alcohol group coming off over here. And I want to put them together, and I want to make what's called a disaccharide. So we want to take these two simple sugars and put them together and make what's called a disaccharide. In order to do that, I have to take water off of the molecule. That's what a condensation reaction is. So if I take an OH from here, and I take that H from there, there's my water. And then what I've done is I've opened up two bond spots. I've opened a bond on this side here, and on this side I've opened a bond on the oxygen. So now, if I draw my simple sugars again, there's the oxygen that was open on that other molecule. And now what I've created with my open bonds is that ether bond. Remember that wherever a point is a carbon. I think on one of the earlier videos I drew them like this for you. So remember that this is a carbon, this is a carbon, this is a carbon, this is a carbon. It's just another way of denoting the molecule. So that's a condensation reaction. We took water off of the molecule. Here he is, right here. And because we took the water off, we had these open bonds available, and that created our ether bond right there. So that's a condensation reaction. Again, in a condensation reaction, we went from smaller to larger. Okay, let's flip this around. Let's go from larger to smaller. And let's do a hydrolysis reaction this time. So we're going to start with our disaccharide. And just so you know, we can do this with amino acids. We can do this to create esters. We're going to do, I'm going to show you a worksheet in class, and you're going to see condensation reactions for all of them. I'll put it in the additional resources section. Okay, so for hydrolysis, we need to go from larger to smaller, and we need to use water to cut the molecule apart. All right, so let's cut the molecule from where we took the water off. Let's cut it right there. That's where I want to cut the molecule. And this time, I'm going to put water onto the molecule. Well, molecules, actually. So if I cut the molecule apart, I'd have an empty bond there. There's my O out of the ether bond. I'd have to put the OH to that one and the H to that one. Now I have two smaller molecules again, and I put water onto the molecules. And that's a hydrolysis reaction. Like I said, I'm going to give you a worksheet that kind of helps you practice those a little bit, but I'll also put a couple of pictures in that show you the different kinds. So that's about the basics of what we need to know about macromolecules, the big polymers, the little monomers, and how we make the big and break down the big ones to get smaller ones. So I'm going to leave you now and send you into the next segment for macromolecules, which is going to be all about carbohydrates.